You are listening to From Ring to Veil.
I'm Shannon.
And I'm Kim.
And we are your wedding planning gurus.
We take the stress out
and put the fun back into wedding planning. How to design your wedding with Pinterest, episode number 190.
If you have not yet, join our Facebook group. You can find us on Facebook. We are the From Ring to Veil wedding planning community. Very easy. We ask you a couple questions, answer those, and we'll most likely let you in.
Our timelines and checklists are available on our website at fromringtoveil.com/checklist. It's a plethora of information for you and checklist and budget sheets. We're about to add stuff, so if you want to take advantage of the $2.99 price right now, get to clicking.
You know, we've talked about Pinterest before many times on the show, but today we have I would say, professional Pinterest person on the show. Her name is Michelle Edgemont with Michelle Edgemont Designs. She has a BFA in textile surface design. And I didn't really understand that. I had to look it up, but it's pretty cool. You know, it's really neat that she knows so much about fashion and what looks good together and even patterns and textures. You know, it's pretty cool.
After she spent 7 years in the fashion industry, she went into the wedding business. Her passion is whimsical florals and joyful events. So she designs events and florals. Her company, Michelle Edgemont Design, was launched in 2011. She was also named 35 under 35 brightest stars in the floral biz. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I would say get your notebooks out and take some notes because she gives us lots of good information in this one. Welcome, Michelle, to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We've talked about Pinterest before, but we've never really talked about how to plan the wedding with Pinterest. Mm-hmm. We've tried to make sure people know that Pinterest can be like very dreamy kind of wedding. It's not going to be something that's easy for you to do after pinning just a million things on your board. You've got to have some kind of a realistic ideas about it so that you're just not trying to do everything you see and realizing it's going to cost an exorbitant amount of money. So I'm very excited to hear your plans on how to design the wedding with Pinterest. Firstly, how about you just tell us how you got to where you are now?
Sure. I went to school for textile design at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York City. And then after I graduated, I worked in the design industry as a textile designer in the fashion world. When I got married, we had a pretty budget wedding, and me having a design background and already loving making things on my own, I pretty much did all the decorations for my own wedding. And to date myself, this was way, way before Pinterest even existed. I believe I had a file folder on my desktop called Wedding Inspiration, and I would just save images from blogs and put them in there. So I guess I kind of invented Pinterest, but didn't.
There you go.
After I did a lot of things for my wedding, and I just really enjoyed that experience and felt like I was using my design skills for an event or for something that had a little bit more of a purpose for people. Besides, I was working in fashion in like the mass market sector, which means that we were basically just copying like runway designs to sell at Target. So, which that could be cool and exciting, but to me, I wanted to, use my design skills and my creativity to do something that had a little bit of a purpose and a meaning to people. So I found that in weddings and events. So about 8 years ago, I launched my event design business, Michelle Edgemont Design, and here we are.
And when you say design, you design weddings or you plan weddings?
So we don't do any planning. We only do the design and the flowers. So that means that anything that you see at a wedding, that we will have our hand in it. So the stationery, the flowers, the table linens, the lighting, the floor plans, anything that has to do with the aesthetics, the visuals, and the feeling of the wedding, than our studio does. But anything that's like budget, planning, logistics, vendor referrals, timeline, all of that would be the planner's responsibility.
Okay. So you've got experience in floral as well as the design part of it. Now, do you work with other vendors during the wedding planning process?
Yes. So we'll work with the lighting team and like the calligrapher and the wedding planner to pull our whole entire vision together.
That sounds really neat.
Yeah.
We've discussed what a designer is on the show because we were kind of a little lost on that too. So it's really cool to have somebody bring to life your idea of what you want it to feel and look like easily. They can do it. You guys can do it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we do. And it really works when we partner with a planner that doesn't do design or doesn't feel like their strengths lie in the creative part, which is totally fine. You know, there's plenty of planners out there that just thrive on logistics and on budgets and timelines and spreadsheets, and they love that stuff. But we really love being able to focus on the visuals of the event.
Very cool. All right, so you are here today to tell us how to design, not plan, but to design your wedding on Pinterest. Where do you even start with that?
Right, I know. Pinterest is very overwhelming for anyone who's designing anything. But my very first tip is to just open up the program and open up the webpage, is make a board called My Wedding Design Board, and literally just pin like anything that you find that you love. Like, don't worry about if it's going to be too expensive or it's not the right colors or the flowers are the wrong season or whatever. You'll learn that stuff down the road. But in the beginning, it's really important to just get a full visual idea of everything that you love when it comes to weddings, because I'm sure, I mean, the majority of people getting married, this is their first wedding. This is the first time they've even designed a party in general, probably. And probably not for, over 100 people. So I say the first step is just open up Pinterest, make that board, and just pin anything and everything that you can find that you love for any reason.
So don't limit, just pin.
Don't limit in the beginning.
Okay.
In the beginning, I wouldn't limit. Unless you really know that I want my wedding to be blush. Then you're going to automatically be drawn to photos with blush flowers.
Gotcha.
And as you start pinning and pinning and pinning all these things that you'll love, you'll start to see a pattern emerging, either through color or through, a modern look versus a rustic look. You'll start to figure out the things that you're automatically drawn to visually. Then I say take a break.
Okay.
Spend a few weeks pinning. Look, as you're pinning work and inspiration from all over the web, try to look at other sources that aren't necessarily wedding based.
Oh.
So I look to like DIY blogs or like home interior Pinterest pages, like the Pinterest pages of like fashion designers or artists or stylists. Those are really places where you can start to find things that are really unique and creative. Because sometimes when we only look for inspiration in the wedding pigeonhole of everything weddings, then everything really starts to look really repetitive. So being able to look on like fashion pages, interior design pages, and things like that, then we'll get a little bit more of a bigger picture of things that you really like. And then I like to say take a break for, a couple of days, let it marinate, and then go back to your big board and start to edit.
That's a big, huge project right there, is the editing, I feel like. But I do like your tip of looking for fashion designers and home interior stuff, because there's some kind of a theme that you like personally. that probably extends through everything. So yes, maybe you didn't see the perfect wedding dress, but in this fashion, you see that you really like this style, and you might be able to find a dress that fits that style. I really like that tip.
Right, exactly.
So how do you start editing? I mean, how would you even do that?
Editing is the hardest part of the whole thing. There's a saying, I think it goes something like, the best designers know how to edit the most. Really, like, design and styling is a practice of editing and not necessarily adding, because you can add things all day long. But when to know when to stop is really where the magic happens. So I like to open up the big giant Pinterest board and like first concentrate on maybe color. And a trick that we used to use when I was a textile designer was, if you kind of unfocus your eyes to make everything look blurry, then automatically you'll be able to see the colors that are coming out more than other colors. So instead of looking at your Pinterest board at every single image individually, if you unfocus your eyes while you scroll through your board, everything will look blurry and you'll be able to see, oh, there's a lot of blue on this board, there's a lot of pink on this board, and then start writing down those colors, in a notebook. And then you'll see the colors that are starting to emerge from your Pinterest board that you can use to start designing your wedding. And then once you have all of those colors written down, then the first step is you can go through your board and delete, or if you don't want to delete, you can move all the pins to another board called like My Deleted Pins. Just so you know, they're still there. You're not going to lose them forever. So move all of the pins that don't have the color palette that you just wrote down onto another board that you're going to eventually forget about, but we'll put it over there just to make you feel better.
Oh, losing a pin. How scary is that?
I know. I've lost pins before and I'm like, where is that idea? Like, I need to find that idea. And, the Pinterest search, what you search for is not always what is going to come up.
Right.
So if you feel scared about deleting all those amazing inspiration photos you found, you can move them over to another board. Because like maybe you found a really cool escort card idea, but it's not necessarily in the color palette of your wedding. You can still have the idea tucked away.
That's right.
But in this exercise, we're working towards having a Pinterest board that is almost like a very cohesive mood board of the entire wedding look.
Okay, so you've got your colors. You've decided, oh, I love these 3 colors. Or how many colors do you suggest that you go with?
I suggest, when we make color palettes, I do like 5 to 7 colors.
Oh, okay.
I know that sounds like a lot, but in those 5 to 7, there's always shades and hues of one color. So you'll have a pink and then a blush and then like a salmon or something. I think making a big array, a color palette that's large, avoids everything being the same exact color of Tiffany blue.
Right.
And it really creates a lot more visual interest. Like you can use a lot of different hues of blue. And then when you look at the event overall, it's going to read Tiffany blue. But you didn't pick every single thing in Tiffany blue like a baby shower.
Oh, how interesting. This is where your background comes in. Yes. All right. You found your colors, your 5 to 7 colors. Then what do you do?
So I recommend organizing the board by types of things at the wedding. And I know that Pinterest lets you break an individual board down into categories. I don't really like that so much for this exercise because then you're not seeing everything on a big picture level. So I like to just move the pins around in order of what your guests are going to see at your wedding. So you'll start with save the dates, right? So you'll pick all the inspiration photos of save the dates on your board, and then you'll move those to the top of your board. And then you'll go with invitations, and you'll move those next. And then you'll go with ceremony, because they're going to see the ceremony before they actually see you.
Right.
So you'll find all the photos of ceremony inspiration that you love, and then put those right after invitations. So that way, when you look at your board, your eyes will be able to follow the journey that your guests will take throughout your wedding.
I love that. That's so smart. No, you're just
That's
super
what I get paid
smart.
the big bucks for.
So then you would do that all the way through the reception.
All the way through the reception, I guess, to favors. And if you're actually designing your after party, I guess you'd put that after favors. But most people don't design their after parties. Yeah, so all the way down to favors. Mm-hmm. And then I'd go through that board again, and then you'll be able to see everything in categories. Like loose groupings of photos on your board. And then I'd edit again. Go through the board visually, and then you'll be able to see all the bouquet photos that you pinned. And I'm sure there's some in there that you've pinned a long time ago, or you pinned in the beginning and you don't really like anymore. So just either delete them or like move them over to your deleted pins board. Mm-hmm. And then just keep cutting down and cutting down until you've got about, I would say 50 pins is a good number for this first step.
All right. So we've got our color, we've got our organization all the way through. Then what?
So you have everything organized, and then you're going to start a second board, and that's going to be called My Black and White Glam Wedding, or whatever name that you have given to your aesthetics of your wedding. It could be My Springtime Garden Wedding, My Lovely Glam Wedding, anything like that could be on that board. And then that's going to be the name of your second board. And then you're going to go back to your big board and only copy over your most favorite pins.
Okay.
Only copy over your most favorite pins onto that smaller board. And then this smaller board is the one that you're going to eventually have only up to like 20 or 30 pins. And that's going to be the most pinpointed and specific design aesthetic that you are going to use for your wedding.
So now, what are some things that you don't want on these boards?
So some things you don't want on the boards are...
like hairstyles? Is that good for this board or no?
Hairstyles I'd put on a separate board.
Okay.
So this board, we're only talking about a big visual picture of your wedding. Okay. Like if you were going to create a mood board like of your house, of like your dream apartment, then this board should be a mood board of the visual aesthetics that you want at your wedding. You wouldn't put pins that say top 10 bridesmaids gifts.
Right.
For example, you can make another board for all that like informational things that you find in your journey.
But would your dress go on this? That's part of the visual?
Yeah, I would say you would put fashion on the board. Dress is definitely a big bridesmaid dress colors. Mm-hmm. You know, bridesmaids dress colors. And groom attire, groomsmen, attire is a big part of the visual aspect of the board too. It's going to look different if everyone's wearing tuxes opposed to if everyone's wearing just a gray sport coat with like a skinny tie. Okay. Yeah. So I would put fashion on that board. Hairstyles I'd keep on a separate board. Okay. You can use any hairstyle for any wedding, I think.
That's true. That's true. Well, what about, so you're talking about save the dates and invitations. Are you putting the invitation that you say, oh, that's beautiful, I want my invitation to look like that? And are you putting on, this is the font I want on my stuff? Or is that just too much?
I think you could get specific. Okay. With that. Obviously if you find the exact invitation that you're using, like if you're getting it from Minted or something like that, then you would put it on there. Or if you are going with the route of working with a custom stationery designer, then you could just put all the inspiration images of different paper goods and stationery you found around the web on there.
Okay.
Hey, listeners, have you heard about Zola.com?
Zola is the wedding company that will do anything for love and is reinventing the wedding planning and registry experience to make the happiest moments in a couple's life even happier.
Join over 500,000 couples who have used Zola to help plan their wedding. They have free wedding websites, invites and save the dates, and a wedding registry, which is easy to use.
Along with the free wedding websites, they offer free guest addressing, free matching envelopes, free guest list managers, and order a free sample pack to touch and feel Zola's papers in person. I have that sample pack right in front of me. It's really cool. They send this pretty little folder with pockets, and they give you samples of all kinds of things. Save the dates, RSVP cards, invitations, even envelopes. Everything is very high quality, nice cardstock, very well printed. I really like that the colors are very natural and they're not that fakey home printer look. They're very pretty. They have the gold foil on some of the invitations and even on the inside of your envelope. I would say these are quality products right here.
You can also match your save the dates and invitations to their free wedding websites. You can personalize this website with your favorite design and add all of your photos, stories, and details.
To sign up, go to zola.com/FRTV and get 30% off your save the dates and invitation order.
Don't forget it's Zola, ZOLA.com/FRTV.
Some other things that are really good to put on there that some people don't think about are textures. So if you are having a very rustic-y wedding in a barn or anything like that, you would put like pictures of wood and maybe like rusted steel or things like that. Or if your wedding is in a black tie wedding in a big loft, maybe you'd put an image of a sequin tablecloth or a sparkly disco ball or something like that to give the feeling of the textures that you're going to use throughout the event too.
Great idea. Okay, now we've got our color.
Yeah.
We've got our organization all the way from the beginning to the end.
Yep.
And we've culled it down a little bit to where we now have 20 or 30 pins on this board.
Yes.
Okay, where do we go next?
So there's two ways that we can go from here. So this would be your Pinterest board that you're going to use to basically design your whole wedding off of. If you are really design oriented and have an appreciation for things being even a little bit more refined, you can go ahead and take these images and put them in a design mood board using Photoshop or InDesign or Canva.com, where you can put your images into a mood board so it won't have the Pinterest branding and it won't look like a Pinterest board. It'll look like a beautifully designed inspiration board. You know, if you're the type of person that really loves things very organized and clean and very stylized, and that could be the route to go. Or if you're just happy with having your edited pins on this Pinterest board, then this is something where you can either grab the link if it's a public board, or you'll have to add your vendors onto this board as a collaborator if it's a private board for them to be able to see it.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is the board that you would send to your planner, your florist, your stationery person, your baker, even your venue and your designer if you're using one. And then this way, all of the vendors of your wedding are working on the same visual board. So you'll know that everything is going to look cohesive even if they're not talking exactly to each other.
That's right. Okay, so you mentioned cake. we want your cake on there because that's part of the visual of it, right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going with a beautifully designed cake that you want to match your wedding aesthetic and your wedding design, then put some cake inspiration on there and then send it to your baker. I mean, I know a lot of bakers that I work with here in New York City, they appreciate also seeing the inspiration images for your flowers and for your stationery and for your lighting, because it gives them a bigger picture of the event opposed to you just sending them like 2 inspiration photos of cakes that you like. Them being able to see the whole picture lets them really do their job as creatives well.
That's right. And I think you hit it right there, is they're all creative. And you can tell them something and show them a picture, and they're going to put their own little spin on it because they are creative. But if you give them this whole styled board and they can see the feel and the design aesthetics and the textures that you like, it would be so much easier for them to design your cake, the way you want it.
Right. And it's a lot easier for creative vendors to work from 30 pins than it is from your original board, which could have had hundreds.
Right.
And hundreds of pins. I mean, clients have sent me their Pinterest boards before, and I open them up and I like never stop scrolling. Like, this board is never ending.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know what you actually like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you like the things you pinned 4 months ago?
Right.
Do you still like those? Or no? Are we moving on to something else now?
Mm-hmm. And also, there's sometimes conflicting things on there, like 2 different styles of bouquet. Well, which one did you like? And did you pin it for the color, or did you pin it because you liked the flowers? Or
right. I mean, it's easy to talk through maybe 3 photos of bouquets.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe they really like the garden roses from a certain bouquet, but they don't like that shape. And they really like the ribbons from this other one. I mean, that's easy to talk through. But when you open up a board that's called bouquets and it has 50 pins on it of bouquets, it's a little extra for me.
And I also think for the person planning the wedding, it's a lot. And they're like, oh, I don't even remember why I pinned this, or it's just overwhelming. So I really like this idea of culling it down to 20 or 30 so that you know what your wedding's going to look like from beginning to end. Now, here's a question. How do you effectively search for pictures on Pinterest that are relevant to what you want? Because you can put wedding bouquets in there and you'll get who knows how many. Right.
Yeah. There's a few ways I go about finding pins on Pinterest quickly. You're right that the search on Pinterest leaves a lot to be desired. Mm-hmm. You know, even if you search garden rose on Pinterest, I mean, pins are going to come up that are not garden roses.
That's right.
Like someone else thinks it's a garden rose. And so they called their file gardenrose.jpg. And now Pinterest also thinks it's not a perfect system.
Right, right.
So there's a few ways you can do that. One, go directly to the Pinterest page of a blog or of a designer or a florist that you know has the style of bouquet that you want. We'll just use bouquets as an example.
Yeah. Well, we do a lot with flowers, so yes.
Right,
Let's use bouquet.
So that is my first tip, to find bouquet images that you are drawn to and you love. So that's going to be your first step. And then look in there and see if there's anything that you love, because you know that this person will already have the aesthetic that you like. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times the work of their own that they pin down their Pinterest page will be there, and they'll also pin other work from other florists that are similar to theirs, because that's just what they like and what they're drawn to. My second tip, which seems to really be working out well, and I kind of discovered it as a mistake, was when you find a picture of bouquet that you love, click it, to make it bigger on Pinterest, and then scroll. So as you scroll, all of the pins underneath that original bouquet picture that you made large are related to that photo visually.
That's
so
right.
This way you are finding all of the other images on Pinterest that are visually the same as the first bouquet picture that you found that you love. So there's no way you would have found those with just searching wildflower bouquet.
Right.
Yeah.
Then they also have the little square looking thing down at the bottom of the larger photo that you can click on. It will also bring up a whole mess of pins for you. Do you know what I'm talking about? That little broken up. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if there's any way on Pinterest that you can find pins that are related to one pin that you like, then I think that's going to be the most efficient way to find other images that you love too. I think just like typing in the search bar is maybe like a good first step, but rarely does that find me images like the image that I'm looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you also suggest going to blogs or websites and pinning from there instead of just pinning from Pinterest?
Yes. If there's a website or a blog that you really love, then you can definitely do that. The benefit, though, is that a lot of websites and blogs, if they're very active, in their work, would have already pinned all the images from their website onto their own personal Pinterest.
Right.
So if you really love, like one example is studiodiy.com. She does really fun, colorful, like DIY projects and inspiration. She has really great stuff on her website that you could obviously go to her site and then look around and find cool stuff and pin it. But I'm sure if you went to her Studio DIY Pinterest page, they have already pinned the images for you.
True.
And you can see them all there.
Okay. Well, then I guess that's if you're looking on websites or blogs and you see something you like, then go to Pinterest, look for their Pinterest boards, or usually they have a link to them, and then go from there.
Or just pin it, just pin it straight from their site too.
And so how important is it to have photos or pins on Pinterest that actually lead to websites? Does that even matter? Because sometimes, you click on them and there's nothing there, or it's...
Yeah. I mean, it depends who you're asking.
Okay.
I think I heard once that some people who use Pinterest don't even realize that you can click on the pictures to take you to a website.
Wow.
I mean, if you don't work on the internet like we do, then
they wouldn't know.
I mean, you wouldn't really know that.
Yeah.
Unless you clicked on an image and you were like, oh, wait, now I'm at the.com.
Right.
Pinterest is so big now, and there's so many billions and billions of images on there that I find that a lot of them don't actually go back to a web page that I need them to go back to. But a lot of times if I find an image like from a wedding that I really love and I want to see more images from that wedding, you can right click on the image and then, on my computer it shows up and it says search Google for this image.
Oh, let me try that.
I don't know
online.
if that was a Google, what is it called? Like
extension, maybe?
Extension that I put on my own computer, or if that's on everyone's computer.
Oh, yeah, I see it. Search Google for this image. I didn't know about that.
So if you right click on the image and then click on search Google, then Google will search for that image online, and then you'll be able to find the blog post that one wedding photo was from, and then you can see all the other photos from that wedding.
That is awesome. You are giving us some great tips here. Thank you. I didn't know about that. Yeah. Do you suggest keeping your boards secret or just open to the public?
That's going to be a personal decision. It really just depends if you want people to see that you have a wedding page on Pinterest.
Okay.
I mean, it's really a personal. It's easier to share with vendors if it's public.
Okay.
Because if it's not public, then you have to add each vendor as a collaborator onto your board.
Okay.
I've actually been added to as a collaborator on bride boards before, and you can see everyone else that's a collaborator, and you can see that she also added like 3 other florists onto the board. You know? So I'm like, oh, okay, I'm bidding on this wedding.
Right.
With this florist who's my friend, this florist. So if you don't want to know that vendors are bidding against each other,
there you go.
I wouldn't add them all as a collaborator on your Pinterest board.
Okay. Good.
Because we all know each other. And we'll be like, what'd you charge her for her bouquet? $250? Okay, me too. Yeah.
True. That's absolutely true. Okay. Well, after you have all this, you're good to go, right? This is the way your wedding's going to look, and you're going to share this with all your vendors, and hopefully everything's very nice and cohesive and beautifully designed.
Yeah, it's definitely the most useful tool we use in designing weddings is having that cohesive mood board or Pinterest board with a very edited number of pins. That's going to help us and help you designing your own wedding make decisions on what you want. Because I find that a lot of couples get held up and paralyzed in the decision-making process because they don't know, is this going to look good with this? And is that going to look good with that? And I mean, if you're not a designer or come from a creative background, it's hard to make those decisions without seeing it in real life. So just being able to be, shopping or deciding on your linen colors, or, you're at Home Goods and you see like something cool that could be used as a card box. You can simply just open up your board on your phone and literally like hold it next to the card box and be like, does this acrylic card box look like it fits into my woodsy garden wedding? No, maybe not. Maybe I'll find something different.
Right.
Yeah.
But if it does, you can just add that pin right there, right? Like just take a picture, add it to your board.
Of course. Yep. It's really the best decision-making tool for aesthetics and decorations.
That's great. Well, I'm so happy that you joined us. This was a very informative talk right here. I learned some things I had no idea of.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'll talk about making design boards all day long. So
cool. Well, I want our listeners to be able to find you. Where can they find you?
So my website is www.michelleedgemont.com. And then my Instagram handle is @edgemontdesign. And those are the best places that they can find me.
Okay. And if they want to email you directly, do you have an email for them?
Yeah, they can just email me at michelle@michelleedgemont.com.
Easy. I do want to tell them about your email program. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I have a 5-day free email course on designing your own wedding on Pinterest. So the whole course is everything and a lot more that I talked about today on your podcast. And it'll take you through 5 days of lessons. And then at the end of the 5th day, you'll have that cohesive 30-pin Pinterest board and be totally ready to send it to vendors and start making design decisions for your wedding. 5 short days.
Awesome. We will put a link in the show notes that will either be on From Ring to Veil /190, or you can find it hopefully right there in your podcasting app if they have clickable links. But either way, FromRingToVeil.com /190, you'll find links to Michelle and her email address and the address to sign up for that 5-day Pinterest email. I did it myself, and it's really cool. There's a lot of information. You guys are going to learn a lot. So thank you, Michelle, so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
So Michelle was very, very informative about Pinterest, I have to say.
Yeah. I learned some things, totally. I had no idea about this. Find this on Google thing. And you know what? I was thinking maybe it's not just on Pinterest, but in any kind of photo that you do. I haven't even checked. You know what? Let me do that right now. I'm going to From Ring to Veil. I'm going to right click, search Google for any image. There you go. See? She taught us something about Google Chrome, I guess. Thank you, Michelle. Really, I really enjoyed that topic. Because, I mean, like, who doesn't like Pinterest? It's so freaking fun. And if you can find a way to use it efficiently, why not?
Mm-hmm. Hey, Seattle area listeners, don't forget we have our Seattle Metro Area Wedding Planning Resource Guide out there on the universe, out there in the universe.
The Amazonian universe.
The Amazonian universe. You can go to Amazon and search for it. You can do Seattle wedding planning and it'll come right up. Or you can go to fromringtoveil.com/RG paperback or fromringtoveil.com/RG Kindle and it'll take you to right there to the Amazon site so you can purchase it for your wedding planning need.
Or for a friend that's planning a wedding in the Seattle area. If you are looking for some fun swag, you can go to fromringtoveil.com/TEE and find lots of fun t-shirts and totes and notebooks, mugs, all kinds of stuff. We have things for the bride and the bridal party. It's not just From Ring to Veil swag.
And as we said at the beginning of the show, we have our Facebook group. So look for that. It's From Ring to Veil Wedding Planning Community and come join the conversations there.
Subscribe to the podcast if you haven't. Why not? We are everywhere. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, iHeartRadio, Alexa, CastBox, Google Podcasts, just to name a few. If you can't find us, let us know. We will do our best to get to those podcasting apps.
And until next time, no stress, no worries. Keep calm and listen on.
Music provided by bensound.com.